Play to win your share of $1 million every week this football season at DraftKings.com. With 1 week fantasy at DraftKings, you can play when you want with a team you want. Just pick your contest, pick your team, and pick up your winnings. Hurry to DraftKings.com now. Use code TAKE and play for free with your first deposit in Sunday's $1 million fantasy contest. This isn't fantasy as usual. This is DraftKings. Welcome to the big time. Enter TAKE for free entry now only at DraftKings.com. That's DraftKings.com.
The Pirates and Cardinals have the best 2 records in baseball, and they go head-to-head one final time this regular season. Could this be a preview of next week's division series? Coverage begins Wednesday at 6:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio.
The topics are hot. The discussion is heated. And we're on fire. The First Take Podcast starts now.
Here's what's coming up on the First Take Podcast. Can the Giants manage a win against Washington tonight? Plus, has the NFL figured out Chip Kelly's offense? And what did Kam Chancellor gain from his holdout? Those topics and more coming at you right now. Hey, what's up, everybody? Thanks for hanging with us here on First Take alongside Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith. I'm Molly Karam. Good
Hello,
morning,
Molly.
guys.
How you? Big time.
You.
What's up, baby?
Molly, would you believe
What?
I talked to this man last night for like 2 hours, and not one time did we ever debate one sports
Really?
topic.
Was
Is
it a
that
love
true?
fest?
That is absolutely true. And the thing that I find interesting about it, just so everybody knows, Skip Bayless made me miss most of Empire last night.
I did.
The season
and he
debut.
willingly did.
I
and
did,
and
and
I
I
was
willingly
taping
did.
it, so I'm a little
I
happy.
have a DVR as well.
As much as I love the show, I will admit, if it were Power, we would have cut that meeting short.
But I actually did you a favor because you got to miss what happened when my Blue Jays beat your Yankees, right?
I'm sure you guys still have plenty left to talk about, though, right? All right, let's do it. Coming up, Chip Kelly is questioned about the predictability of his offense. Has the league figured him out? We'll get into that. Plus, Tom Brady has a record-breaking performance against the Bills. And then Big Ben gets honored. What is that about? We'll get into that as well. But first, we got a little Thursday night football action. Let's discuss. The Redskins are now 1-1, losing Week 1 to Miami and pulling off the win Week 2 against the Rams. On a positive note, Kirk Cousins has been sacked just 3 times in 2 games, while running backs Alfred Morris and Matt Jones have combined for 182 yards and 2 touchdowns in Sunday's win. The Giants, on the other hand, are 0-2 after blowing 2 double-digit leads in the 4th quarter, first to the Cowboys on Sunday Night Football, then to the Falcons. The Giants are a 3.5-point favorite. Giants, Washington. Skip, you wouldn't tell me in the meeting.
I would not tell you.
I need to know.
And you know what?
Who wins?
Because I'm the only non-Giants fan on this panel, I think it's appropriate that I set this table and do the honors objectively, as opposed to the both of you. Although I sometimes wonder about my partner's real Giants affinity, because he does love him some Pittsburgh Steelers.
I'm a diehard Pittsburgh Steelers fan, but I never root against the New York teams.
Okay, got it.
Diehard New York Football Giants, so we got to.
So, Molly.
Connecticut, go ahead.
Oh.
Even though Victor Cruz has been ruled out with a calf injury, and even though, and this is a stunner to me, Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie has been ruled out with a concussion.
Appreciate you
That's a
saying
big
that, letting
loss.
everyone know.
And even though your fine young left tackle Eric Flowers is listed as doubtful, doubtful.
Tell the people.
Woo! I am still going Giants 30-21 because I still believe that even beat up as they are, the Giants are that much better, 9 points better at home than the Washington Redskins, whom I think are being a little overrated early on. Let's look at what has happened to the Giants so far. I think we could both agree, all three agree, that they easily could and should be 2-0.
Yes.
Because no team in NFL history has ever blown double-digit fourth-quarter leads in the first 2 games the way the Giants have. They were up 23-13 on my Dallas Cowboys on opening night with 5 minutes left in the game and managed to blow that. They were up on the Atlanta Falcons at home last Sunday, 20-10. A couple of minutes into the fourth quarter, managed to blow that, Eli, $84 million man that you are. But speaking of Eli, last year he torched these Redskins twice. I thought he played his 2 best games of the year against these Washington Redskins. He had a combined, favorite stat, QBR, scale of 0 to 100, against the Redskins last year, a 2-game QBR of 93.3. That's pretty great. And remember that first game at Washington? Torch City, 300 yards, 4 touchdowns. 45-14 Giants at Kirk Cousins, who threw 4 interceptions for the home team. So he's got some making up to do, but I'm not sure he's going to be able to make that up to his team this time.
Okay.
Second game at Giants, 24-13 Eli's. He throws for 253 touchdowns and no interceptions. But more importantly, Odell Beckham Jr. in that game caught 12 balls for 143 yards and 3 touchdowns. I expect more of same tonight. And speaking of those Redskins, I will be the first to admit they've looked a whole lot better than they did while my guy RG3 was playing quarterback for them in the preseason, especially that one fateful night, which was disastrous for him and for them. But I am here to submit to you, Mr. Smith, that even though they hung in with the Miami Dolphins, we are way overrating the Miami Dolphins so far. I said before the year they were not going to make the playoffs, even though some people I know were picking them to win the AFC East. Are you kidding me? So it was no surprise. In fact, I picked the Redskins to upset the Dolphins on opening Sunday, and they came close. It took a punt return in the fourth quarter by Jarvis Landry to win the game 17-10. And then last Sunday at home, those Redskins, I thought, caught the St. Louis Rams sleeping on them because the Rams are coming off a huge emotional home opening day victory, remember, over the Seattle Seahawks. We're going to talk about them pretty soon. And I don't think the Rams took them seriously enough and found themselves down 17-0 at half and could not climb out of that hole because the Redskins had discovered the two-headed running back monster with Matt Jones plus Alfred Morris. That's a pretty tough 1-2 punch to stop. And the Rams weren't up to it on that day. I still said the Rams are going to be a wild-card team, so I'll stick in with that. Big picture, though, Giants, little better than Redskins. Prove it tonight. Eli, you better come through, big guy. It's your time. You better live up to that contract. 30-21, your New York Giants.
I like it.
Bayless, I don't blame y'all for liking it. These are the New York Giants that we're talking about here, and we're talking about Eli Manning, who hasn't thrown an interception thus far this season, thank the good Lord. Shane Vereen is their second leading receiver. Actually, he's tied with as many receptions as Odell Beckham Jr. Both of them have 12 on the season. Obviously, the Giants were in both games. They should have won the opener against Dallas. They blew it. Obviously, they had a 10-point lead against the Atlanta Falcons in the fourth quarter. They blew it. And this is a division rivalry, so the obvious pick is to go with the Giants, no question about it, but I'm not doing it. On this particular night, Skip, I have to admit, I'm leaning towards the Redskins, and that's who I'm picking to win.
Did I just change your pick?
No, you didn't.
In case I made, okay, I just want to make sure.
No, you didn't. I thought about it long and hard last night, and I'm looking at the Redskins defense. Skip Bayless, they are ranked. They have the third-ranked defense in the NFL this year, giving up 13.5 points a game.
I think in yards, they're number one.
They're number one in yards
Yeah.
allowed. They're number 2 in yards allowed passing-wise. They're number 4 in yards allowed rushing-wise. They've got the 4th-ranked defense against the rush, the number 2 ranked defense against the pass, number 1 in yards allowed, okay? And then the number 3 ranked defense overall. I'm looking at that, and I'm saying if you're the New York Giants, you're going to have a problem because you don't have Victor Cruz tonight. You've got Odell Beckham Jr. It's not an accident that your second leading receiver is Shane Vereen. Fresh off 11 receptions in the Super Bowl for the New England Patriots, he becomes a New York Giants and has been playing relatively effective out of the backfield as a pass catcher. I think if you're the Washington Redskins rather, and you have an opportunity to key on Beckham and Victor Cruz as opposed to Shane Vereen, I think you take the latter. I think you can worry. I think you feel like you can handle Shane Vereen a bit better than you would be able to handle Victor Cruz and Odell Beckham Jr. The fact that Victor Cruz is out for tonight's game, I think, is an incredible thing for the Washington Redskins. I think it's something that's going to work to their advantage. They've got some cats on the defensive squad. You still got D'Angelo Hall back there. You still got Golston back there. You still got a few other guys. Kerrigan's back there as well, getting sacked. I'm just looking at these guys right now and how they're playing overall effectively, combined with the absence of weapons that the Giants have because of a still suspect running game and the absence of Victor Cruz. Therefore, or you can key on Odell Beckham Jr., really put a hat on him, I think he's still going to get his because he's too talented not to. But I don't think one receiver is going to beat this Redskins defense at this juncture. I know the Redskins went against Miami, and then after that you said they caught St. Louis napping. I get all of that. But I also think about the defenses that Miami has and that St. Louis has and how they have a reputation for being able to punch you in the mouth because of the personnel they have this year. That certainly didn't work that well against the Washington Redskins. And then I think about the Redskins rushing attack, the combination of this guy, Matt Jones, who came out of nowhere, with Alfred Morris. You can run the football effectively, okay, against anybody, it would appear, because we all believe that Alfred Morris is a stud. And you combine that with the way the defense is playing. It's a division rivalry. You're not going to be surprised by anything that Coughlin and McAdoo throw at you. I think the combination of all of those things, combined with the absence of personnel the Giants have at their disposal at this particular juncture, meaning the absence of a Victor Cruz, the absence of a JPP to contribute to rattling Kirk Cousins. I think all those things lend itself towards Washington escaping with this game. I'm picking Washington to win this game 23-20.
23-20.
I appreciate your objectivity.
I do remind you, Eli, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I said I appreciate his objectivity, but I'm a little salty with
you are.
Hashtag hail to the Redskins. I know what that means.
I totally believe that you will get over it. I totally believe you will get over it.
We just broke up. Goodbye.
Remember, Eli does love him some tight ends. He'll use his tight ends too tonight. Right. It won't be just Odell or bust.
Right.
And that Redskin defense, did it really add anyone that made it that much better? Is it still pretty much the same personnel that it was a year ago?
Guys were nicked up a little bit. Some weren't as healthy as they appear to be right now.
Okay. I'm just not buying the Redskins yet, but we will see tonight.
All right, so Stephen A. has the Redskins, Skip has the Giants. We hope,
I could see the Giants losing tonight and going to the nation's capital and beating Washington later on, but not right now.
Better on the road than at home there. All right, that's their picks. We want to hear from you guys. Weigh in on Twitter using the hashtag TakeNYG or TakeWashington, and we will share those results in just a little bit. Meanwhile, let's stay in the NFC East, but let's focus on the Eagles. That highly touted offense just hasn't lived up to expectations. Some might even call it putrid through the first 2 weeks. One explanation for their struggles could be that opposing defenses know what's coming. That's the story Philadelphia wide receiver Josh Huff was telling the media on Tuesday, 2 days after the Cowboys beat the Eagles 20-10. But by Wednesday, according to Chip Kelly, Huff's story has changed. Here's Kelly and Sam Bradford on the predictability of their offense.
I just asked Josh, do you think they had any of our signals? And he said no. So
where's this coming from?
I don't know. I just asked him a second ago. I said, Josh, do you think that they're picking up on things? And he said no. So.
Have you heard that before from other players on the team that they were?
No, I mean, I think there's certain things that everybody does that's predictable from a tendency standpoint. When you line up in this formation, 75% of the time you do this, 25% of the time you do this, but there's nothing I don't think anybody does, offensively or defensively, that's 100% of the time.
I've said all along, it's not the most complex offense in the world. I think, we try to play fast, but, when you play fast, I think we do have certain tendencies. I think, Dallas did a good job at recognizing some of those. But, like I said, we have answers. Regardless of what the coverage is, we've got answers, and we've got to be able to get to those.
All right, they have answers, Skip. Has the NFL figured Chip Kelly out?
I must say my Dallas Cowboys certainly have. I think we saw that 2 straight years in Philadelphia.
Okay.
And I very much figure that Todd Bowles and his New York Jets defense will continue to expose Chip Kelly's college offense, his Oregon offense, as little more at this point than a lame duck attack, if I might.
Okay.
And who better to call attention to this, to call it out, to drag all this out into the spotlight than a former Oregon Duck named Josh Huff? Chip drafted Josh Huff in the 3rd round, 2014, out of Oregon. So who better? Thank you very much, Josh. Even though naturally Chip Kelly said that Josh didn't say what we all heard him say, but Josh wasn't referring to signal stealing, to cheating of any kind. He was referring to tendencies, predictability, and who better to hear that Cowboy players were calling out plays before the snap. Then a Josh Huff, he's a backup wide receiver, but he is a wideout, and he did play.
Got it.
So he's going to line up wide occasionally on the side that features the Dallas Cowboys. So he can hear them yelling the play as he lines up at the wide receiver spot, right? Before the ball is snapped.
Right.
So I thought Sam Bradford was very honest, maybe painfully honest, because he's the first to say, what we're doing is not complex. We're trying to beat you with tempo, with fast break. But what we're doing, I'm paraphrasing slightly what Sam said, very honestly, we're simple. We're not going to beat you with creativity. We're going to beat you with speed, okay, with snaps. Snap, 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 before you can get set. Well, that's very interesting to me because Rod Marinelli, coordinator of my Dallas Cowboys, has figured out those tendencies. And Chip agreed that 75% of the time out of this formation, we're probably going to do that.
Right.
And maybe they were just guessing right all day on Sunday, holding, again, not your Eagles, but those Eagles to barely, what did you call it? You said the score should have been 20-3, right?
23.
Yeah, so they should have had 3 points at home. Really? So they did get in the end zone late, thanks to Jordan Matthews' touchdown. But my point is this. Chip Kelly wants to be the star of the Philadelphia Eagles. And we agreed in the offseason after he made move after bombshell move to remove this guy, this guy, this guy. It's Chip's show.
Right.
He's the center of attention. He's the ringmaster. Okay, show us, Chip. And so far, so bad. Because, remember, his quarterback, Sam Bradford, whoever, Nick Foles, whoever it was, he won't allow them to check out of bad plays. So the defense, even though the snap's coming quickly, you can do whatever you want on defense. You can set where you're going to set, and he's not going to check out of it because his coach won't allow him to audibilize. While Tony Romo drives me nuts half the time when he was playing, but he's Peyton Manning. Tony's like, oh, no, blah, 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 and he's telling Dez when Dez was playing, you do this, and after a while, the clock's going down to 2 before they snap the football. Well, the Eagles don't want to do that. So whatever defense you set in is set in concrete. You don't have to worry that they're going to trick your defense.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to, I understand that, and I appreciate the explanation. What I'm trying to gather is, what are you peeling from this? Do you think that's a problem?
Huge problem, because now that people are on to that, tendency-wise, maybe Chip's going to flip the script this time and try to run this out of that formation. But I think Chip is one of those guys I always talk about. He walks in the room, he's walked in this room, and he thinks he's the smartest guy in the room, and a lot of times he has been the smartest guy in the room, but he's going to dig in and show you, prove to you, I'm the smartest guy in the room. So is he going to change personnel this week? Nope. I'm Chip Kelly. I don't change personnel. I don't change horses in midstream, nor am I going to change my attack. Watch me watch it. It will work.
Once again, very, very early in the show in this week, you have utterly disgusted me.
Good.
You have gotten on my nerves.
That
because you have forced me to do something you know good and damn well I don't want to do.
Yeah,
and that's come to the defense of Chip Kelly.
Yep.
I don't want to do this. You're forcing my hand because I am a fair-minded and objective human being who thinks about fairness. And even when it comes to a guy like Chip Kelly, who I obviously am not very fond of.
Nope, you're not.
Let me say this. You and the typical sports fan that is like you, because most sports fans ain't like Skip Bayless, but in this particular instance,
he's ride or die.
But in this particular instance, they are. You must make up your mind. I'm going to use a basketball analogy. When the Lakers had Showtime, because Chip Kelly wants to be a fast break kind of offense, right? So who better to bring up than Magic Johnson and the Showtime Lakers? Who did not know, whether it was Rambis or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar or Worthy getting the ball, or the rebound, that the ball wasn't going to go to Magic? Whether it was Norm Nixon and Byron Scott on one wing, James Worthy on another, Cooper trailing, that Magic was not going to have the ball. He wasn't going to go to the middle of the floor and lead the fast break. And in the event that it didn't work, we were going to come back down, slow things up, and throw the ball inside to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar for the skyhook. Primarily on the left block so he could turn around with the right and use the skyhook. Everybody knew that. But what you gonna do about it? Michael Jordan is the greatest player that I've ever seen. We all knew what Michael Jordan was gonna do, but at the end of the day, what you gonna do about it? Bill Belichick with Tom Brady. We all know that Tom Brady is a bad boy. He ain't the bad man that Aaron Rodgers is, but he's a bad boy. But whatever. But at the end of the day, what you gonna do about it? See, that's the issue here.
Okay.
And so what I'm saying to you, I'm just saying to you to make my point. When we talk about Chip Kelly, in fairness to Chip Kelly, I believe he's absolutely right when he says, considering the film studying and all the dissecting that goes into coaches game planning for a particular opponent, everybody pretty much knows what you're going to do. Not all the time, but most of the time. The question is, what you going to do about it? So if Chip Kelly deserves blame for anything, I don't believe it's for his schemes. I don't believe it's for his lack of football intellect.
Yep.
I believe it's because of his moves that he made as a general manager, instituting, implementing some of these 9 new players into his system. That's where I think the problem lies with Chip Kelly. Is Byron Maxwell worth the $61 million you're paying him? What about Walter Thurman III? How you feeling about him? Should you let Evan Mathis go? What about LaShawn McCoy? What about Harriman? Should you have kept your word and took care of him contractually? Deshaun Jackson before that. Jeremy Maclin this offseason. Should you have paid the money and kept them? Those are legitimate questions against Chip Kelly.
Okay.
But not from a schematic perspective, because I think for the most part, everyone knows what you're going to do. The question is, can you stop it?
Okay, so here's my problem with your analogy. Chip Kelly wants to be Magic Johnson. He wants to be Kareem and MJ and Tom Brady because he doesn't have a Magic on the football field that I can see. Not yet. I don't see one. Do you see an MJ? Do you see a Tom Brady out there? No, because he doesn't care. They're all cogs in his system.
But that's what I'm saying. We agree on that. My point is, that's what we should be attacking him for. The personnel changes that he made, in alignment with what he wants to do on the football field. But I don't think that it should be a story that Huff or Sam Bradford are saying that we're relatively predictable, because I think for the most part, most of these teams are predictable to opposing coaches. The thing is, there's but so much you can do about it. When we talk about Megatron and we talk about the catch, it was a catch. Who in God's name didn't know that ball wasn't going to Dez Bryant? We knew. The question is, what you going to do about it, Green Bay? And when Dez went up and got the ball, the only thing that did something about it was the ground and the officials. The opponent for the Green Bay Packers couldn't do anything about it because he couldn't hang with Dez Bryant. That's all I'm saying here.
That's what I used to say about Deshaun Jackson and what I used to say about LaShawn McCoy. What you going to do? How are you going to stop him? Because I don't know.
So again,
they're too good.
So again, we're not talking about Chip Kelly schemes. We're talking about Chip Kelly, the personnel guy who's decided, I didn't need those guys. Yes, you did. Therefore, we wouldn't be talking about predictability. We'd be talking about, so what you know what he's going to do, what you going to do to stop it.
Okay, so let's look at DeMarco Murray. Chip pulls off the ultimate, watch this. Watch me. Watch this. I'm going to tweak Dallas. I'm going to ruin Dallas. And I'm going to bring him into the fold for X, whatever it was, $24 million guaranteed.
Right.
Way overpaying for DeMarco at this stage and age of his career. That's just me.
That's just you.
But am I going to change my offense? Nope. Am I going to line up in the I formation and hand it to DeMarco the way Dallas sometimes did? Nope. Not going to do that. So I can even make the case now DeMarco's got a hamstring issue. Maybe Ryan Matthews is a better fit because they already had him in the fold. Maybe he's a better fit. Maybe they'll be more dangerous.
Look, with all due respect, you can make the argument that you're a better fit than DeMarco Murray, considering, I mean, you got 11 yards on 21 carries. What's that, -1, -2 yards? I mean, who the hell? I could do that. Hand me the ball and let me just drop, and I'd still average as many yards as DeMarco Murray is running. I mean, come on. Literally, this is not an exaggeration. It's not an engagement in hyperbole. I could literally get handed the ball by Sam Bradford right now, Stephen A, at 47 years of age, on an NFL football team.
I believe
you
that.
can hand me the ball.
I believe
you
that.
can hand me the ball, and I literally can drop on the ground and average just as many yards as DeMarco Murray is right now. That's just a fact. So the point is, again, we ain't talking about We're not talking about his schemes. We're talking about what he has chosen as his personnel. It's one of those, at the end of the day, this is what it comes down to. Some coaches, most coaches, have no business being involved in personnel decisions. They just need to coach what the GM gets them. Because when they get to make their own decisions, it usually does not work out for the better in football. Maybe in basketball it might be a little bit differently. But in the sport of football, as complicated as it is, the 53-man roster, offense, defense, special teams, the personnel, the depth that you have to have at each particular position. It's just entirely too much for a coach to have to deal with. He should not have that responsibility. That's what the argument that could be made here against Chip Kelly.
Well, you love you some Chip Kelly. I got to say.
Don't say
that was great defense.
Don't do that.
Chip Kelly versus Todd Bowles?
I told you, I'm the ultimate district attorney. Man.
Yes, you are.
He's just fair.
I'm just fair.
Yeah.
But I'll take you out.
You're here for the people.
I'll take you out. I'll convict you.
You'll take any case and try to win it. Right?
I would win most cases.
Unless opposed
You got to believe in yourself before anyone else does, right?
You know it.
Yesterday was a good day for the Seahawks and the 12s. Kam Chancellor ended his holdout and returned to his team. Chancellor will join the Legion of Boom in the secondary on Sunday when Jimmy Clausen and the Bears come to town. Here's Kam.
So I'm just happy to be back. Just happy to be back playing football. Happy to be back with the organization, with my team, with my teammates, my coaches. You know, they were highly missed, and it was hard to watch those games. And I'm just ready to play football now. You know, watching those losses, you know, it hurt me, just being a leader that I am. So, you know, I think the time is now to, you know, come back and put all business to the side and address it after the season. You know, just get back to work.
The time is now, Skip. What did Kam gain from this holdout?
Stephen A. Smith, I again want to congratulate you on breaking this story near the top of our show yesterday. I know you're tight with Kam. I respect and appreciate that. I said immediately, and I sort of got hit with this right out of the box as we opened the show yesterday. It struck me as noble and impressive that Kam swallowed his considerable pride, listened, as you pointed out, to Ray Lewis, the great Ray Lewis, and said, I got to get back and help my football brothers in that locker room. Love all that. Then last night, after you and I talked, I began to think about, okay, so what's the upshot of all this? What purpose did this serve? What did Kam ultimately gain from all this? What did he earn from all this? And the answer is absolutely nothing. All that he accomplished was helping his brothers in that locker room dig an 0-2 hole for themselves, right? I mean, if he's there, I think they win the first game at St. Louis. I don't know about the game at the Bad Man at Lambeau Field, but maybe they win that one too with Kam. I don't know. But he lost 2 game checks. It's about $500,000. Now, I don't know. Maybe Seattle quietly will make good on those 2 checks. I don't know that. But maybe not. I think they dug in to Seattle management. We've talked a lot about that. So the quarterback of the defense, the guy who runs the defense, what was his game plan through all this off the field? What was the goal here? Because whatever it was did not get accomplished. Seattle was willing to negotiate with him all along because they had had discussions. I don't know how fruitful those discussions were. You don't think very, and they tended to alienate him pride-wise by what they told him to his face. Both the GM, Schneider, and obviously Pete Carroll was on board with Schneider here. So there's bad blood that got dealt on both sides through this. Kam's not happy about it. He has no leverage left. So once you go down that road, for me, you got to keep going down that road until you win. Because I'm going to use this example one last time. The Emmitt Smith that I went through as I was covering the Cowboys, Super Bowl champs, 92, going to 93 football season. And Emmitt held out for 2 games and came back and won league MVP and then Super Bowl MVP after his team fell to 0-2. Emmitt Smith got his money. He, quote-unquote, won, even though I still thought Jerry took him a little bit to the cleaners, but he still got something that he was holding out for. So Emmitt felt really good about it. They all felt great. That was quite a triumphant, joyful celebration that they had in Seattle, and that's great by me. But in the end, what purpose did it serve? nothing but 0-2 that I can see. Help me out here.
Well, I am going to help you out. First of all, Kam Chancellor to me is similar to a Kobe Bryant, a Dwayne Wade, people like that, to a degree, Shaquille O'Neal, to Michael Jordans, to the Charles Barkleys, Kenny Smiths. I mention names like that, Skip Bayless, because those are individuals that I know personally, that I have a strong level of affection for, simply because I respect them as men.
Yep.
Intent matters. Yes, Kam Chancellor wanted to get his money, but he also felt disrespected.
I get it.
No one's trying to knock John Snyder this way, because I don't know the man. Never met him, never talked to him. It's wrong to cast aspersions on him. But it was clear in talking to Kam Chancellor, and he can give people the details when he wants to, because that's his personal business, and I'm not going to violate his trust. But he has okayed me to say he felt disrespected.
Sure.
And it was a challenge for him to walk back, to shove all of that aside just to get back to work. Individual pride, while unwise in its usage sometimes, ultimately has to be exercised from time to time to get others to raise up and recognize there's a certain way you just can't come at people. There's a certain way you just can't treat people. They're not having it, and it's not going to go down like that. So when you say what did Kam Chancellor accomplish, you're looking at it strictly from a football perspective. Initially, it was just about football. But what argument I am absolutely 1,000% sure he would make to you and anybody else who's listening is that it elevated to a point where it wasn't just about football anymore, which is why it wasn't just me on the phone with him. There were other folks, too, including our very own Ray Lewis. And if Ray Lewis wants to talk about that, he can do that himself. Ray Lewis was on the phone with this brother, talking on a much, much deeper level. I'll get a little bit personal with both of you if you don't mind. Skip will appreciate this story. You don't know about it. I had a similar situation to Kam Chancellor.
I know what this
at
is.
This very network.
Oh, okay.
You understand?
I thought you were going to go.
Now, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not being negative here.
Yeah.
Because as much as I love the present regime, the previous regime that let me go, Skip, they weren't wrong. But I didn't know that at the time, because I was caught up in my value, what I brought to the table, and how I felt I was being treated, as opposed to appreciating the position that other folks within, the job that they had been assigned to do, and how they're supposed to go about doing it. When you are a novice in a particular category, you tend to personalize things from time to time, which I did, because you thought it was an indictment against you and your level of production when you thought it was at a level that warranted what you wanted. And it wasn't until you opened your eyes and really embraced business, understanding how it operates sometimes, that you recognize that those folks weren't at fault. They did what they needed to do in the best, in their minds, in the best interest of the whole, as opposed to an individual. Sometimes it takes what Kam Chancellor went through in order to him to fully appreciate it.
Okay,
but,
quick point of order. When you talk about your ESPN experience, you weren't having to. You didn't do what you did at the expense of a football team.
No,
I didn't. Just you.
No,
right?
I didn't. But at the same time, if you're a part of the team, you're a part of the team. If they're utilizing you in various ways, and your attitude ain't right, then it's a detriment to the whole. You have to take into account the fact that all of those things matter. I can work with Skip Bayless, and no matter what I'm going through no matter what I'm going through in a professional life, even though life is very, very good for me at this particular juncture in time, if I were going through something adversarial, I could still come on this show and do what I do every day, because from a personal level, I'm able to harken back to when I was gone and who one of my top supporters were. It was Skip Bayless, sitting here fighting for me, wanting me to be here, wanting me to work with him every day and pounding the pavement and alienating some folks because he wanted me so badly. So what I'm saying to you is that, but sometimes you got to go through that before you know better. And Kam Chancellor hadn't gone through that before, so he didn't know better. So even now, though he's back, somebody had to educate him about, look, this is what it's costing not just the team, but you.
Yep.
And you have to put other things aside. And it took him a couple of weeks to get to that point. It's human. It's understandable. But ultimately, he benefited from it most because he learned a very valuable lesson.
Can I interject one thing quickly with this comparison? So you leave, you come back, and you really show your value because you light it up here at ESPN, right?
Yes.
So Kam leaves, they lose 2 games. We're all kind of shocked. Some people are. What impact? Now, if he comes back and they don't win, did he gain anything then on the field?
He would have.
If they win now, rest of the way, we see the difference.
He will have lost, but let's be clear.
But I'm saying for that comparison.
I'm just saying, you never know what the ultimate effect is going to be. You're betting on yourself.
Yeah.
Kam Chancellor is in the ultimate position to bet on himself because of who he has playing with him.
But if they go and light it up now, he definitely gained something.
That's right. And if they lose, then he didn't. But some people are willing to bet on themselves because they have that innate, ingrained belief in themselves. And when you have that's like if you're asking me to go up there by myself, I'm very confident. Please don't get me wrong. I'm going to bet on myself. But if you're telling me I'm rolling with Skip, my confidence is going to be a little bit higher.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because I believe in us, you know, just as much as I believe in me. So that's what's going on here. He didn't lose. It's just a matter of how much he's going to ultimately win. Because trust me, he ain't losing that money. They're going to give him money back for those 2 games.
I hope so. The flip side of your point, the downside to your point, and I hate to even raise this issue, but we all know this is a violent game that he plays. He had his knee issue going into the Super Bowl.
Right.
So he's also risking his future here unprotected for the rest of this year, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so that concerns me a little bit, just a little bit. And then to your big picture point, are we saying that because of his pride, and as the Bible says, pride goeth before the 0-2 fall.
Yes.
I put the 0-2 in there, but okay. But because of his pride, because he wanted to stand up to, if not punish, his management, didn't he do that at the expense of his teammates? That's all I'm asking.
You did it at the expense of your teammates if the end result isn't what you desired it to be. But we don't know that until it happens. You can't sit here at 0-2 with 14 games and say he did it at the expense of his teammates. Now, if you wait until you 0-5 or 0-6, you got a different argument. But 2 games into the season with 14 to go,
I'm with you.
Okay, you can't say he did that at the expense of his team.
The only thing you got going on your side of that argument is you now have Jimmy Clausen and the Detroit Lions coming to town. So you got a chance to at least right the ship initially.
Sure.
So I give you that point, but I still not exactly sure what got accomplished here.
You never know.
We'll find out.
You never know. Not only we'll find out the rest of this season, we'll find out in the off season whether or not a team is willing to revisit the similar situation again. Or do you trade them?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Football's back, and it already feels like the playoffs thanks to 1 Week Fantasy at DraftKings.com. With millions of dollars in prizes being paid out each week, every play in every game could take you closer to a life-changing payday. Hurry to DraftKings.com now. Use promo code TAKE and play for free with your first deposit in this Sunday's $1 million fantasy contest. This isn't fantasy as usual. This is DraftKings. Welcome to the big time. Enter TAKE for free entry now only at DraftKings.com. That's DraftKings.com.
The lawyer for the woman accusing Patrick Kane of sexual assault said evidence was tampered with. Now her attorney said an empty evidence bag, which he said had contained the rape kit, was left in the doorway of the woman's mother's home. The Hamburg Police and Erie County Central Police Services in New York said all evidence has been accounted for and handled correctly. Kane's lawyer said that he welcomes an investigation of the bag incident since results of the DNA testing favor his client. No charges has been filed in this case yet. Kane went to training camp with the Blackhawks a week ago and made his preseason debut on Tuesday. Now, this isn't the first time Kane has run into legal issues. In August of 2009, Kane and his cousin were arrested in Buffalo after an altercation with a cab driver. Stephen A., are you okay with Kane playing during this investigation?
No, I am not. But it would happen to be because of the absence of an uproar over Patrick Kane. Now, let me be very, very clear. To my knowledge, he has not been charged. We understand that.
He has not been charged.
He has not been charged.
Yes.
That is entirely different from Ray Rice, who was charged. It is entirely different from Greg Hardy, who was charged. But to me, that's a legal issue as it pertains to law enforcement and what have you. My indictment is not against them. It would be against Patrick Kane if he is guilty of such acts.
Yeah.
He definitely needs to be in jail. If he is innocent of such allegations, then my apologies for even bringing up this subject, because it puts him in a national spotlight even more so. And if he is innocent, he doesn't deserve that. If he is innocent. Having said that, my issue pertains to this. The National Hockey League, men's tennis, the PGA have no domestic violence policies whatsoever. But everybody was up in arms when Ray Rice and Greg Hardy went down. Major League Baseball, which was sparked by the whole Ray Rice fiasco, suddenly implemented its own domestic violence policy. But according to numerous reports, numerous major leaguers over the years have been accused of or charged with domestic violence, and in the last quarter century, however, none has been punished on a league level. So let's add Major League Baseball to that list.
Okay.
Major League Baseball, even though they have a policy, didn't have one. No league level, ramifications came down on players or managers, by the way. Because Bobby Cox, formerly of the Atlanta Braves, certainly had his issues. Nothing with the PGA, nothing with tennis, nothing with the National Hockey League. Does anyone see a pattern here? These are predominantly white-dominated sports. But when it comes to the National Football League and when it comes to the National Basketball Association, everybody is up in arms talking about there's an epidemic going on. Let's address it. Now, let me be very, very clear. I am a black man. Unapologetically. I have never been involved in domestic violence in my life. I have never put my hands on a woman in my entire life. And I'm here to vouch for a vast majority of players in the National Football League and the National Basketball Association who happen to be black, who have never done such things. But when you see the few incidences that have taken place, and you see the uproar, and you see a nation standing up and saying this is a problem that we have to address, to the point where Roger Goodell's job was supposed to be on the line until the owner stepped up and said, we think he's doing a fine job, compelling Adam Silver to then step in and to make sure that something was implemented as it pertained to that, and that was publicized. You had two leagues in the United States of America that had to stand up front and center and say, this is definitely an issue that we will address. We have given it the attention that it deserves. But you have a guy who is a star in the National Hockey League who is being accused of such things, not charged, I understand that, but is being accused of such things. And I don't see an uproar. I don't see, I'm not saying it hasn't been reported. ESPN has reported it on SportsCenter. Yeah. Various publications have written about it. I'm talking about the public uproar when it comes to this. And I'm going to repeat this again. The National Hockey League, the Tennis Association, the PGA, and until recently, Major League Baseball, predominantly white sports. little to nothing going on here. We even have Gary Bettman on the record, Skip Bayless, on the record. I got to find this quote right here because they said last September, Commissioner Gary Bettman for the National Hockey League took an active stance against domestic violence and sexual assault while speaking in Toronto. In the month since, he has expressed no interest in negotiating a domestic violence policy and a sexual assault policy with the NHL Players Association. And then the last paragraph of this article that I'm reading talks about Bettman has assured fans and the media that no new policy is needed because, quote, our players know what is right and wrong. That's his statement, and he gets away with this. What are we trying to say here? When people look around and they see a bunch of black men who have a problem with the society that we live in, when they see a bunch of black men who are talking about and alluding to the prevalence of racism, these are the kind of things that give those thoughts credence, because we're seeing stuff that's implemented disproportionately, and that's the problem. If this is good for the National Football League and it's good for the NBA, and black players are being labeled with insinuations and beyond because of the actions of a few, how did Major League Baseball get away with this all of these years? How are we not talking more about Patrick Kane? How is it that the National Hockey League, the Players, the Tennis Association, and the PGA have no policy whatsoever? And then you wonder why black folks get upset and they say, oh my Lord, maybe racism is still alive and well? Think about it. That's all I got to say.
Wow. Well, I say amen to much of what you said. I appreciate that you did point out hasn't been charged. And just the only point of order I have in the bigger context is, did you have a problem with Jameis Winston being allowed to play at Florida State? He was not charged, remember, as they were investigating?
Right.
He continued to play games.
Well, he proclaimed his innocence, so I didn't have a problem with it because my whole point is, again, I'm not questioning the legalities and how the legal system chooses to handle something.
Okay.
What I'm questioning, even more so than the institutions, I'm questioning the public uproar. Jameis Winston was in the news all the time.
Because he wasn't charged, though, that there wasn't the uproar. Because I sat in the meeting, just so you know, production meeting, you weren't in, Skip was there, and I said, how have we not covered this? And then one of our producers said he wasn't charged. And my thinking was same with you. Why is he being protected? They said he wasn't charged.
I think it's a fair, first of all,
so if he was, would there be an uproar?
In favor to you, the producers, and white folks across this country, it's a legitimate question, and I understand that. I'm talking about the public outcry. Because the mere insinuation in this day and age seems to create an uproar, but it seems more prevalent when it comes to young black males. And that is what I am saying. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about how it's handled in terms from a legal perspective. I do understand that. And institutions and franchises to some degree have to protect itself. But the leagues could do something if they were so inclined. But the NFL and the NBA feels compelled. Major League Baseball just followed suit after a quarter century of doing nothing. And we've got 3 major organizations that haven't done anything. That's a problem.
Clearly, hockey is living in the past here. Hasn't caught up to the times, in part because there hasn't been the outcry that you talk about, the outrage. But why is that in the larger issue? Well, clearly hockey in the United States, is it fair to say, is not as popular as football, basketball, and baseball?
That's fair.
Right? So has there been some outrage expressed in the city of Chicago? I think there has. And I think ESPN's Sarah Spain has expressed outrage publicly.
She has, and I applaud her for that.
And Christine Brennan wrote about it today in USA Today.
Talking about the great Christine Brennan. I mean, come on now.
Okay. I am so with you. Patrick Kane, there should be a policy in place whereby he was suspended with pay. I'm okay with pay. Suspended with pay through this investigation. Can we make a case that he's getting preferential treatment in his hometown of Buffalo here? You could make that case given what you set this up with. And her attorney is now saying, the victim's attorney, or the accuser's attorney is saying that, hey, this is a classic case of why so many victims are hesitant to come forward the way she's being treated right now. I don't know the details of it, but I get all this. That's why there should be a policy in place, and he should have been suspended from the start. But this is a hockey problem. I'm not sure it's a race issue as much right now. What we're talking about is a hockey issue. Is that fair to say?
Well, not for me, because I don't blame you for taking that position, but not for me, because what I'm seeing and what a lot of black males are seeing is that to some degree, black men could potentially be stereotyped by the actions of a few.
That's fair.
So it's
incredibly
important to us that when something else happens that doesn't involve black men, but it involves criminal activity, that gets highlighted and illuminated just as much so we can understand it is a problem across the board, not just when it's pertaining to young black men, because you don't want to give that impression, because we got young black men on the come up who are obeying the law and are acting like civilized citizens, who are good young men who don't deserve to be stereotyped.
Okay, fair enough. Great. Now, help me here, educate me to this question, because I don't know the answer to it. What would really be glaring, and since you brought it up, hockey has about 5% of its players are black out of, 600. So that's 30 out of 600. That's give or take a couple. Okay? 5%.
I didn't know it was that much, but go ahead.
So if one of those players had immediately been suspended with pay during an investigation, and then Patrick Kane wasn't suspended during an investigation, you could certainly cry race there, right? But that hasn't happened. That's not your point.
That's right.
Are you with me?
I'm totally with you.
I mean, that would be glaring. That would just be outrageous within the sport of hockey.
I'm not accusing hockey of protecting one of its own while throwing another of its own to the wolves. They have obviously, an absence of sensitivity to some degree as it pertains to this issue as a league. I believe that in this day and age, the PGA can be accused of the same thing based on the fact that they have no policy. And the ATP. What I'm trying to say, however, is this. As a black man, we recognize that it's hard out there, particularly when the actions of a few potentially taint the many and contribute to stereotypes we already believe was in existence for decades, if not longer. So when something happens with a Ray Rice or a Greg Hardy or somebody, and or a Jameis Winston, and that gets blown up and illuminated, but somehow, some way, Patrick Kane doesn't have to deal with the same level of scrutiny, and the excuse is because he's in hockey. You've got folks sitting there saying, well, wait a minute, NFL's predominantly black, and National Basketball Association is predominantly black, okay? In Major League Baseball, even though there were a lot of white guys that were accused, you've got Dominicans or of a darker skin, but primarily it's America's national pastime, and it's a whole lot of white guys.
At least one white manager.
There you go, and at least one white manager. So you just arrived on the come up in the aftermath of the Ray Rice situation, and then you have these predominantly white sports with no policy. Let's make sure we understand here. Black folks are watching, and they're saying, excuse me, are we doing things and they're not? Or are we just the ones getting caught, meaning the few who did, while we're glossing over others who have done it? My props to Christine Brennan and Sarah Spain and all of them for bringing attention to it, because it's clearly not a race issue. But you have people that might interpret it as such when we only hearing black men being talked about.
I love what you said. This is a major reason I love doing this show with you, that you have the courage to step up to that plate and take that kind of stand. I respect that.
Thank you.
Rank Bill or the Pope higher?
And Bill we trust. You kidding me?
The Patriots are 2-0, and Tom Brady leads the NFL with over 750 yards, 7 touchdown passes, and hasn't thrown a pick. Interestingly, despite having arguably the best performances in the AFC over the first 2 weeks, Brady has been overlooked for the conference's Offensive Player of the Week honors for the second week in a row. Listen to these numbers. Week 1, it was Marcus Mariota who threw a TD with a QBR of 95.7 against the Bucs, compared to Brady, who also threw 4 touchdowns with a QBR of 91.2 against Pittsburgh. In Week 2, it was Ben Roethlisberger, who had a completion percentage of near 80% and a 99.4 QBR against the Niners, compared to Brady, who threw 466 yards and 3 TDs against the Bills. Did you get all that? A lot of numbers there, Skip Bayless. What do you make of this?
Stephen A. Smith, for me, this is somewhere between outrageous and hilarious. Because clearly, in my view, This commissioner in no way wants his league to glorify or honor or award the quarterback who kicked Roger Goodell's behind in a court of law, who picked his case to pieces the way Tom Brady picked to pieces Rex Ryan's defense up in Buffalo last Sunday. Clearly, to me, I'm a Brady fan, but I think I'm being pretty objective here. Tom Brady deserved Player of the Week one or both of those weeks, and there's no way he's going to win a Player of the Week under this commissioner. So, to Molly's case that she was making, look, Mariota had a nice opening day, but he was 13 of 16, and all of his yards came after catch. He was dinking and dunking, and guys broke loose for long gains and long touchdowns. Meanwhile, Brady versus Big Ben on opening night, remember that game? You don't think Brady outplayed Big Ben, albeit in Foxborough, with 4 touchdown passes on opening night? And then this past Sunday, I know Ben had a really nice game and threw 3 touchdown passes at home against the 49ers. And I love Eric Mangini, and they had a great opening night win over Minnesota. But they're not last year's or the year before San Francisco defense. And meanwhile, Tom Brady went up against his nemesis, Rex Ryan, and that top 5 defense in that asylum that was Ralph Wilson Stadium up in Buffalo last Sunday, and destroyed it with 466 yards passing and 3 touchdowns with 0 interceptions. That's not Player of the Week. I'm sorry. That's hands down Player of the Week. But you know what? Here's my bottom line. I love it that Goodell is doing this to the guy I call Psycho Tom. He is fueling the fire that is raging, the bonfire raging inside of Tom Brady right now. And he is going to take it out on opponent after opponent after opponent. And we will all know who deserves many Players of the Week awards, but he won't get one. Thank you very much, Roger. We appreciate that.
Do you have any evidence whatsoever that Roger Goodell's responsible for this?
I will bet you he signs off. I don't know that for a fact.
On this? I don't understand.
Exactly. We don't know that.
Okay.
You don't know what role that Roger Goodell has in picking the Player of the Week.
You don't think it crosses his desk?
I don't think so. I honestly don't. Why would
You
Roger
could
Goodell,
be right.
Why would Roger
You could be
Goodell
right.
care about who's the Player of the Week? Do you have any evidence about this whatsoever?
I have evidence that he got his butt kicked in Deflategate. That's all I know.
I understand that, but you don't have any evidence that he's paying attention to Player of the Week. Therefore, there's more than a strong level of plausible deniability on the part of Roger
okay.
Mr. Fairness over here.
Which means
are you playing defense attorney again?
I'm just saying, you have no evidence whatsoever, so you're just going to come on here and tell us what you think, and you're going to indict the commissioner of the National Football League because
for Player of the Week, I'm going to indict him.
At this moment in time,
I'm sure
he has lost the case, even though the case is being appealed, and it could potentially still be addressed before this season.
2 years from now, maybe,
or it could be addressed 2 months from now. We don't know.
Well, want to bet on that?
My point, I don't know. I honestly don't know. In all seriousness. So my point is, you have no evidence of this. You have no proof of this whatsoever. Here's what I do have proof of. I did see Big Ben Roethlisberger throw for 369 yards. I did see him complete 21 of 27 passes. I do see him completing 72% of his passes on this season. I do see a quarterback rating of, I believe, like 122 or something like that, 0.6.
We don't care about those.
Well, I care.
Okay.
I mean, you don't, but I do. And so when you consider that, along with the fact that he is Big Ben, along with the fact that he is accustomed to shrugging off defenders, along with the fact that he is accustomed to standing in the pocket, and he doesn't engage in too many dipping and dunking the way that Tom Brady does, well, more than 70% of his passes, I would sit there and say you might have an argument about Tom Brady versus Marcus Mariota in week 1, but I have no problem with Big Ben Roethlisberger.
Oh, please. Are you kidding me?
You said you're a diehard Steelers fan.
I have no problem whatsoever.
I object.
Hold on. Your objection is overruled. Here's the point.
Says the defense attorney.
Here's the point. Here's the point, Skip Bayless. What I am trying to say is simply this: Tom Brady and those 466 yards. I can't wait till my man Mark Schlereth gets up in here to defend my position, because as great as Tom Brady is, and there's no debating nor is any questioning his greatness, what I am anxious for Schlereth to break down is how many, and I sort of throw to Gronkowski, I sort of throw it near the end of the game to Amendola. I am in no way implying that Tom Brady cannot, nor has he not made those fantastic throws throughout his career, every season after season after season. But primarily, it's a relatively safe passing game, 2-step drop, quick drop off.
Who does he have have to throw too deep. Tell me somebody. Aaron Dobson?
Again,
seriously,
I'm just
give me one.
No, I'm giving you that.
Gronkowski?
I'm
get deep.
I'm giving you
I'm
the
talking
fact
about
that Tom
deep
Brady
passes.
has been fantastic in that regard. On the rare occasion he throws those passes. But what I see Tom Brady doing on a rare occasion, I see Big Ben Roethlisberger having to do over and over and over again. Now, Ben Roethlisberger has been second-tier status, but he has now elevated himself to first-tier status. Ben Roethlisberger is an elite quarterback and a future Hall of Famer in the game of football, still playing right now. When you talk about great quarterbacks in the NFC, in the AFC, I would put Big Ben Roethlisberger at this moment in time even ahead of Peyton Manning. I'm gonna be real with you. I think it's I think it's Brady, Big Ben, and Peyton, as opposed to it being the other way around. Big Ben is no longer on the outside looking in.
Okay, that's fine.
At that elite status.
But so, you cannot put this performance ahead of Tom Brady.
Well, listen,
you can't.
I can. I thought that Ben Roethlisberger was absolutely sensational.
Okay,
I really did.
Time out.
I think that. Now,
I just want one answer from you.
Here's the argument you got
against
me. Antonio Brown, I do believe at this moment is the best receiver in football.
And if Tom Brady had Antonio Brown, he'd be bombs away.
That's fair. Now, but I'm saying he wouldn't do any better than Big Ben. He would just do what Big Ben is doing. Because Big Ben, you got to remember, Antonio Brown is fresh off 129 receptions for nearly 1,700 yards last year. He started out this year to get game 2, 9 receptions for 195 yards. So what I'm saying to you is that Brady would do that. It's not like he would do better than Big Ben is doing. He would just do probably what Big Ben is doing. So we can't take away from what we're seeing from Big Ben. Case dismissed.
Okay. I'm about to close my case right now. I need one answer from you.
Yes.
Who had the higher degree of difficulty on Sunday? Ben versus the 49ers at home, or Tom versus Rex Ryan in Buffalo?
I would say to you Tom versus Rex Ryan in Buffalo because of Buffalo's defense, but I would also make this argument against you. There are many occasions where you have sat across from me and you have made the argument. It was supposed to be difficult. Tom Brady just made it look easy. So I would suggest to you that San Francisco, based off of what we saw Monday night, with Eric Mangini as the defensive coordinator, was supposed to make it difficult. Big Ben just made it look easy.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. But
that's what I'm trying to say.
You did admit that the higher degree of difficulty was clearly up in Buffalo.
On paper, and in terms of going into the season. What happened on the field, Big Ben made it look easy, along with Antonio Brown.
How many times has Rex made it look really hard on Tom Brady?
How many times has he made it look easy?
I
recall Tom Brady beating him 45-3.
That was the butt fumble game.
I recall Tom Brady beating him 9 of the previous 13 times. What's the difference now? He owns Rex Ryan. He knows Rex Ryan. He's familiar with Rex Ryan. Big Ben Roethlisberger don't have to deal with Eric Mangini too much. It's relatively new to him, but he went out there and handled his business.
By the end of the year, will the 49ers be a top 10 defense?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, you really?
So
really?
I believe in Eric Mangini.
Okay.
The Redskins travel to the Meadowlands to face the Giants tonight on Thursday Night Football. I might be a little bit excited. Washington is 1-1 this season, and New York is winless at 0-2. We asked you guys earlier in the show to vote on Twitter which team will have the better season. The results are in. 56% say the New York Giants. Mark Schleyer this year, our Super Bowl champ, who's shaking his head. He played 6 years with the Redskins, so I don't know if that has something to do with it. How are you, Mark?
Just further proving the point that most people on Twitter are idiots. 56% choose the Giants. Have you not watched the 2 games they've played? I know they've been ahead in the fourth quarter in both games, but have you watched either line of scrimmage when you're talking about the Washington Redskins versus the New York Football Giants?
Because the New York Football
Giants couldn't block their way out of a wet paper sack. It's a 2-man team, essentially on the offensive side, 3-man. It's Eli to Odell Beckham Jr. And then Shane Vereen out of the backfield. Beyond that, they don't have anybody that's playing any good as far as getting things done on the offensive side of the football. The Washington Redskins are dominating. They should be 2-0. They're dominating the line of scrimmage right now. They have Alfred Morris ran for 100 yards in week 1. They had another 100-yard back last week.
Matt
Jones was phenomenal. I'm telling you what, as long as they don't turn the ball over, their defense is playing great. I think they're number 1 in the league as far as yards concerned on the defensive side and on the offensive side. They've been great. I mean, flat out great. And the bottom line is you control the line of scrimmage in this. We get all this. We talk about periphery players, and we talk about receivers and quarterbacks, and we talk about running backs, and we get all Twitter-pated over all those things. Bottom line, you don't control the line of scrimmage in this league, you don't win. and the Washington Redskins are flat out dominating the line of scrimmage right now.
So to be clear, the Redskins will have the better season.
There's no question the Redskins will have a better season. They're a better football team.
All right.
Right now, they are a better football team.
By the way, don't you read on Twitter what people write back to you?
All the time, yeah.
That's what I thought. So why would you waste your time? Just a question. I don't know.
What, with Twitter?
Reading? Yeah. Why would you read what they say if they're all
Because they entertain me.
Okay.
I'm very entertained by all the hate that comes my way. I love it. Bring it on. I've got thick skin. I can handle it. There's no virgin meat on this behind.
No, it's hater.
Yeah.
Haters.
I really don't have much to add. I mean,
He's got your back.
I just think Schlereth was just brilliant. And you know, in his elocution, just the things that he said, and you know, the content of his information, the Redskins have dominated at both lines of scrimmage. I told you how they looked. They didn't just sneak up on the Washington Redskins. They ran the ball effectively, but more importantly, their defense is stout. When you consider the fact that they're the third-ranked defense in the NFL, #1 in yards allowed, and the way that they're playing, and you consider the fact that all Eli Manning appears to have is Odell Beckham Jr., a second-year receiver, and a guy like Shane Vereen, who came over from the New England Patriots, that's not going to be enough to beat the Redskins so long as Kirk Cousins doesn't turn the ball over.
100%.
And why should we expect him to turn the ball over when he has not one but two 100-yard rushers over the last 2 weeks of the season? And Matt Jones and Alfred Morris. I can give the football to them to run the ball about 40 times a game, and they should be just fine.
They're doing a great job managing him. Now, he had one boneheaded interception in week 1.
Yep.
Or get 3-man rush, 8-man drop. He moved out of the pocket to his right, and he threw it into the flat, a lollipop into the flat, and I think Brett Grimes picked it off. And it was just like one of those, like, dude, what are you doing? Beyond that, last week, the guy was great, controlled the tempo of the game, threw it to his tight ends on the crossing routes. He just made smart plays. I think he had 203 yards passing, something of that nature.
Yes.
But he doesn't need to. At one touchdown, as long as he doesn't turn the ball over, this team will win a bunch of football games based on the way they run the ball.
Give me a bunch.
Which
Give me a bunch.
That happens.
I need to hear a bunch.
If that happens.
10, 11?
Well, I mean,
12?
I'm talking about, you know, my expectations, let's say
9 and 7.
Okay.
9 and 7?
My expectations for the Washington Redskins coming into the season, I think are very much like your expectations. Hey, if they win 4 games, I'd be, you know, like, that's where they are. They're going to win a heck of a lot more than 4 games. The way they're playing right now, they got a chance.
9?
They've got a chance to win. Yeah.
Is that what we're saying?
They got a
8,
shot.
9. Yeah, absolutely.
I need to see more, but right now, based on what I'm seeing thus far, I wouldn't surprise if they go 9 and 7. And as much as we've criticized him over the last year and a half, let's take a moment to give Mr. Jay Gruden credit.
Okay.
Talking to some guys in the NFL.
Will.
They say the man can coach.
Yeah.
And the way they're playing right now, he looks like he's doing a good job.
Yeah, they're doing a great job.
So, if memory serves, I believe this Kirk Cousins started one game against your Giants, your New York Football Giants, last year, and I said, dude, what are you doing 4 times? Not once or twice, 4 times. I said, dude, what are you doing?
That's true.
Because it was just a disaster.
It was.
Remember that?
In Washington.
Okay.
It's horrible.
Both times, Eli absolutely torched this pretty much this same Washington defense that's off to a very good start. And I will be the first to admit they have played better than I thought. Though I must credit Mike Shanahan. He mentioned to me before the year started that this team's going to be a little better than a lot of people think.
Right.
He's dead right about that. And you're right about dominating the line of scrimmage, although this defense was up against a Ryan Tannehill in week 1. He knows this. I don't love him. And I thought that team was being dramatically overrated because some people picked that team to win the AFC East. It was laughable then. It's more laughable now. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I even said if Tom Brady gets a 4-game suspension, they still win the East by 2 games.
Fair enough.
Okay, that's where I was.
Okay, but even though this defense is healthier, this Redskins defense, than it was last year, Eli went crazy on them with 4 touchdown passes, then 3 touchdown passes. And Odell Beckham Jr. in the second game, the only game he played, caught 12 balls for 143 yards and 3 touchdowns. We will see more of same tonight. And I get you about what you're saying about lines of scrimmage, but I got to tell you, when you were up 10 on my Dallas Cowboys with 5 minutes to go, you have done something right in that game on opening night. That was 23-13, and you have to agree with me, they should have closed that deal. I mean, it was...
Well, they should have closed the deal, but the Dallas Cowboys should have been up by 20 points.
Okay.
I mean, you would have, should have, could have.
But again, they were in position.
The long fumble return, they had turnovers. It was one of those situations where
it was almost their night. I agree.
Yeah.
But then you're up on the Atlanta Falcons, 20-10. A couple of minutes into the fourth quarter. That's pretty good. I don't think you could get dominated at the line of scrimmage and be up 20-10 on the Falcons. I'm just not sure of that. So they probably should have won both those games to be 2-0. I agree with you. They got issues. Now they don't have Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie tonight. Obviously, Victor Cruz can't go. And Eric Flowers, the left tackle, who's a fine young player. I like him a lot, and he's doubtful.
Came out of the game last week, doubtful?
He's doubtful.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to play either.
I got a question for you, because I'm just curious, and I don't know if you've noticed this. Last week when they played St. Louis, Redskins started 3 tight ends.
Yeah.
They started Reed, they started Carey, and McCoy. Could you explain why that is?
That is because
I don't see
run the football.
I guess
well, it's very much what the New England Patriots do. This is the offense in many ways that I came into in the league with the Washington Redskins when there was Donnie Warren and Ronnie Middleton and Terry Orr and all those guys, and it was really a one-back, 2 and 3 tight end offense. Oftentimes, now we had the 3 receivers and the 1 backs as well, but what they're doing is very much what the New England Patriots do with their multiple tight ends formations, which is we can come in this thing out of that personnel and play it heavy. So we can basically say we're going to run it down your throat, but we're also good enough to come into those formational situations with those 3 tight ends, and we can throw it out of that because our guys can match up, and that's exactly what they're doing. Jordan Reed. That guy is playing.
He can ball.
He can play.
As long as he's healthy, he can ball.
Great football. But the thing that surprised me last week is he's locked up, and this was game plan specific. And I don't know how much you'll see of that tonight. It just depends on the team you're playing, I would assume. But they just locked up on defensive ends with their tight ends against the Rams. They locked up against Quinn. They locked up against Long, and they said, you know what? We can dominate the edge of the line of scrimmage just with our tight end formations, and they flat out did it.
Let me tell you why I asked you that question, and I want you both to tell me if I'm wrong. I'm thinking when you've got your 3 tight end set, it's not just about getting somebody to help you block, but can also pass catch for you. It's about making sure that you're basically letting everybody know you're going to restrict yourself to short yardage situations. You're not trying to look for the long ball pretty much at all. You're going to pound it with Matt Jones and Alfred Morris, and you're going to have those 3 tight ends. And I looked at it as strategizing to cushion things for Kirk Cousins and basically send the message: we're going to beat you up. Right. What you going to do about it? Am I right in saying that?
That's 100% right. The other thing is in the passing game, you're going to get favorable matchups. I mean, think about week 1 against the Pittsburgh Steelers when New England loaded the box with 3 tight ends, and all of a sudden, down to the goal line in the red zone, bam, they explode out. 1 minute, they run a slant with Gronkowski, and they run a drag to Chandler. Chandler catches for a touchdown. Next time, they go right back down. They get in that same formation. Bam, they explode out of it. This time, they run the fade to Gronkowski. Last week, did the exact same thing last week, and they split that out to Gronkowski's side. Chandler and Gronkowski on this side. They threw a fade on the other side to another tight end.
Well, the first one you described, is what Tom Jackson calls the rub route, correct?
Yeah, that's a rub route. Yeah, was it Chandler over there? But the same formation, 3 tight ends. So they get these favorable tight end on linebacker matchups in Washington as well. And you have to make a decision. As a defense, you got to say, well, they're in big, they're in heavy personnel, they're in tray, and they're going to run the ball down our throats, and that's embarrassing. So we don't want to do that. So we're going to line up our heavy personnel, and then all of a sudden it's like, matchup nightmare for you because our tight ends can get done.
You got Redskins tonight, right?
Yes.
Big.
Well, what do you mean by big?
Couple of touchdowns?
No.
Dominate the line of scrimmage?
I got to win at 23-20.
Yeah, they're not. I mean, they're not going to be one of those teams that are going to light it up for 38 points. You know, they're just not going to. That's not how they're going to win. They're going to win games 24-17. That's what they're going to win. That's how they win.
Okay. I got Giants 30-21, and I got Giants going 9-7 to the Redskins 7-9.
And I'll give you 7-9. Winning 23-20. I'll reserve the right to see what kind of record they're going to get this season.
Okay. Well, what about Giants? Do you think they're how many did they win this year? What you got?
From what I've seen, I don't see the Giants winning more than 7 games.
Okay. That will be the end of Tom Coughlin.
Yes, it will.
Right about that.
Yes, it will.
And now, for Geico's edition of Stuff Found in Your Car, we go inside your side door pocket.
Hello, yes, the crumpled receipt with gum in it. From your anniversary dinner, you sprang for expensive wine, your server was Beth. That dinner was a couple $100. Money you could get back if you switched to Geico and saved hundreds of dollars on your car insurance. I bet you'd save that receipt. Frame it even. But really, where did I go wrong? Was it the corkage fee?
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com today.
2 Texas high school football players who hit a referee in a September 4th game at the direction of the team's assistant coach will be eligible to return to the school for the spring semester. The player's lawyer told ESPN's John Barr on Wednesday. The 2 John Jay high school players, 15-year-old Victor Rojas and 17-year-old Michael Moreno, have been assigned to an alternative school as punishment and have been prohibited from even watching John Jay games as spectators. With credit for the time they've already spent at the alternative school, the boys will be eligible to return to John Jay when the semester starts on January 15th. And this just in. Mac Breed, the assistant coach from John Jay High School in San Antonio, who was accused of directing the 2 players to blindside an official during a game, has resigned, according to his attorney. Stephen A., from what you know now, are you okay with those 2 kids returning to school?
I'm okay with them returning to school as long as they were not allowed to play football for the rest of the year, which appears obviously to be the case. They're not going to be allowed to play football for the rest of the year. For this year, obviously, they can return. They're 15 and 17 years of age. They did not kill someone, thank the good Lord.
Mm-hmm.
And so as a result of that, you think about America being a land of second chances, understanding that these are kids. You certainly want to punish them because you want to send the message to teenagers that this is not something that is allowed. There will be consequences from your actions, and the earlier you teach children that, the better. Mm-hmm. In this day and age, you shouldn't only be teaching that to children, you should also be reminding parents of that as well, because you don't want parents walking around acting like their children are victims when you just finished victimizing somebody else, because that makes you no better. In fact, it makes you worse, because you're the adult, which means you're supposed to know better, which means that if you're giving that kind of impression, you know you're even more reprehensible than the kids. But under no circumstances do I believe that the punishment on the part of the kids should exceed that of Mac Breed, the assistant coach, who ultimately told the kids to go after the official. Mm-hmm. I not only believe he should have resigned, I think he should have been arrested on the spot. You told the kids to go out there and assault an official. That's what you did. They had on helmets, they had on pads, they were behind the official's back, went up to him, one blindsided him, and the other tried to spear him. That is assault. There is no way around it. And the fact that an adult who happens to be a coach literally instructed the kids to do this, I believe he should be held even more accountable than the kids. I will give him credit for this. According to the reports, whether it was the head coach or the principal, I don't recall, he asked what was going to happen to these kids. When he was told that they were going to be expelled, he immediately came forward and said, I put them up to it. Yep. So in that regard, I applaud him from the perspective of he was willing to own up to it rather than throw them to the wolves. I do applaud him for that. The second he realized they were going to get punished for it, he stepped up and said it was me.
Yep.
But that doesn't negate the fact that he basically had these kids assault these officials. Mm-hmm. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm not saying he should spend 10 years in jail or something like that. But there should be an arrest on his record. He should be arrested for assault immediately. They should be knocking on his door today to arrest that man for having that official assaulted, regardless of whether he used the N-word and other racial epithets. I'm not excusing that official. That is inexcusable, and that official should be dealt with if indeed it was true, even though that official is categorically denying it. Mm-hmm. But we live in a civilized society, and we have to send the message that just because somebody says something to you that you don't like does not give you the license to physically assault them, particularly when you're doing so behind their back instead of standing up in front of their face. Sure. I would have respected the official more had he went on the field and confronted the official himself rather than trying to get the kids to do it.
Okay, so I have absolutely no problem with these two kids being allowed to return next semester to school.
That's right. Neither
and
do
I told you from the start, in no way can you justify those two kids trying to running into that official. But if you'll remember, from the start, I told you when you dug in and said those two kids should have been arrested on the spot. There could be extenuating circumstances. Let's see what happened. Let's let it play out a little bit. And now, as you know, and you've turned your focus more to the assistant coach.
Okay, but still be clear. I still believe those kids should have been arrested.
You do?
On the spot.
Wow.
On the spot.
I do
I don't
not.
care. Listen, I think it's important. I think imagery is important. I think it's important for other kids.
So you should arrest a 15 and a 17-year-old for following orders from their coach.
I believe the kids, the other kids there, should have seen those two kids being taken away in handcuffs. I don't care if you let the kids out of jail in 2 hours. I think it's important for that imagery to allow kids to see what would have happened, what could happen to you if you engage in violence.
Okay.
That's what I still stand by that.
I think you need to investigate first, find out exactly what just transpired. And again, to your point, big picture now, a number of the players on this team have accused this referee, he's denying all the above, of not only making outrageously bad calls against this the visiting team for the home team, but as you say, of using the N-word against some of these players and some terms that are offensive to Hispanics against some of these players. So we have all kinds of things going on that led or prompted the young assistant coach to order them to take it out on that referee by blindsiding him, running into him. Again, cannot justify that. But again, if you're ordered by your coach, man, I don't think that should result in an arrest.
We seem to have a full story here.
Yeah.
Here's the difference between you and I. I am telling you right now, particularly because of the generation that we're living in, kids are not respecting their elders. They're not respecting authority. Don't even get me started with community and next door neighbors and how you don't have respect for those folks. I think imagery is essential to the upbringing of kids.
Okay.
You cannot assault a referee, even on a coach's orders, and then walk off the field like nothing happened and get to show up on Good Morning America with George Stephanopoulos talking about we were ordered to do it, and that's the repercussion. I am not in any way advocating that those kids should have been thrown behind bars. What I'm saying is it's incredibly important that they should have been arrested on the spot. Even if it's something that's going to be expunged in a week, they should have been arrested on the spot, taken away by the cops for assaulting the police officer. The difference between my feeling about the kids and the coach is that I think after that you let them go, you keep them off the football team, but you allow them to return to school. Whereas
I'm
with the
telling
coach,
you, if you arrest them, they're going to spend at least one night in jail.
All right, that's fine.
You can't get to the bottom
you know
of it.
what? You know, ain't nothing wrong with one night. But the other part about it is this: that coach, I think that coach should be arrested.
Okay,
and
that's
treated
fine.
like an adult who assaulted somebody.
But remember,
that is the difference.
Kids are obeying and following the orders of a coach.
One kid didn't, Skip. There were three of them that was told. One kid was wise enough.
We're only talking about the two.
Well, what I'm saying is one kid was wise enough to know better because of how, I don't know if how he was raised or just his natural intelligence. He was smart enough to know, look, I can't do that. I could get in trouble for that. The other two should have been. You're 15 and 17. You're not an adult, but you ain't some toddler. You knew better. You did it anyway. No, you're going to pay a price for that. You're going to pay a price for that. If I had a son and that been my son, I'd have whipped him. I'd have whipped him like he stole something.
Okay, well, that's
and I ain't want to tell you what I would have done to the coach for giving him that order.
The Saints are off to an 0-2 start this season, and only 3 teams have a worse point differential than New Orleans. It's so bad in the Big Easy that they've fallen to number 30 in the latest ESPN Power Rankings. Making matters worse, Drew Brees has a bruised rotator cuff in his throwing shoulder. The Saints play division rival Carolina on Sunday. Skip, do you expect a turnaround from this team?
Stephen A, not enough to make the playoffs. I expect with Jarris Byrd coming back at safety this week and Keenan Lewis at cornerback, that'll help revitalize Rob Ryan's defense, which has been pretty awful so far. I thought Brandon Cooks was going to be breakout this year. I thought he was about to go Odell Beckham Jr. on the NFL. So far, not so good. He's just been pretty quiet. He's caught 4 for 49 in the first game, 5 for 62 in the second game after he terrorized the Patriots. Remember when they had the scrimmages back in the summer? And Belichick was just raving about we just couldn't deal with them. The Saints have lost their home dome magic, and I'm not sure why. Maybe they're just not good enough, but they lost their last 5 home games last year. Now they've lost a 6th straight this year to Jameis Winston, Tampa Bay division rival. And now they got to go to Carolina. I don't think they're going to win that game. Just me, I'm not objective. I don't think they're going to win the Dallas game. Then they go to Philly, and then they host the Falcons. I just don't know if you're going to get it all back, even though Drew Brees is as tough a customer as they come. Hasn't missed a game ever, and I don't doubt he'll tough it out and tough through this one. But maybe he won't have quite the velocity and distance on his throws that he has before, as he didn't against Tampa, obviously, after he got hurt in the second quarter. He played through it. God bless him. But I don't think they're the Saints anymore.
They're not the Saints because if you remember a couple of years ago, they finished 4th in the league in defense. Last year, they were 31st? They gave up about 384 yards per game.
Yeah.
That's just awful. Rob Ryan, there was a time we were talking about his coaching acumen.
I agree.
The only thing he needed to change was his wardrobe, his hairdo.
Yep.
You know, because, I mean, who wants a head coach that looks like he just came from a rock concert? You know, but we're not saying that about Rob Ryan any longer. He certainly has not been that impressive over the last couple of years. We've seen him looking like he's gotten into a few things with Sean Payton. You got to remember that Sean Payton brought in Dennis Allen as an assistant.
He did.
So you know that he's raring to put somebody else up in there because there were people who thought that Rob Ryan would lose his job last year. And so I definitely think that's going to probably be the case after this year. They're not impressive, defensively. They're not that impressive at all. Against the pass, they're ranking about 18th. Against the rush, they're about 24th. They're not impressive at all. Offensively, however, that was their signature. That was their bread and butter. To lose Darren Sproles, to lose Jimmy Graham, they don't seem like the same team. Skip, I'm looking at some of these numbers. Marquise Colston got 7 receptions in 2 games.
Yep.
Coleman, you've got 7 receptions in 2 games. Neither of them for 100 yards in 2 games combined. Your leading receiver is Mark Ingram, coming out of the backfield, 11 receptions. That's not the Saints squad that I am accustomed to seeing. You scored 19 points in both games.
Yep.
You seem to struggle to do that. I'm just looking at a New Orleans Saints squad that appears to have lost it. I see this team going nowhere fast, Skip Bayless, and then I look at the schedule. Carolina is not a team to sneeze at. You got them on the road. After that, you got Dallas, okay? And then I'm looking at Philadelphia, Atlanta, Indy. You know, you got Washington down the line. You got Houston down the line, and that defense. You got Carolina again. You got Detroit. The schedule didn't look hard, but it's going to look hard for the Saints.
Yep.
I just don't see this team going anywhere. It looks like Drew Brees has dissipated to some degree, but I don't think it's because of him. I think it's because of the weapons that have been taken away from him, and the luster has definitely been lost in the case of Sean Payton and that staff and the personnel they have around Drew Brees, just as much as anything else.
Well, Jimmy Graham has not made his presence felt in Seattle yet, but his presence is missed in New Orleans.
There is no question.
No question. The NFC South always up for grabs. Carolina and Atlanta both 2-0, and the Bucs are 1-1 at this point. And of course, the Saints are winless, as we just told you. The NBA has announced another change to the finals format in an attempt to build more rest into the schedule and ease travel demands on its players. Gentlemen, the season right around the corner. Stephen A., you liking the changes?
I love it. I definitely support it. Personally speaking, for my travel purposes, I love that.
Selfishly.
So let's not knock that. But also, in all seriousness, I think that, as I've said to Skip on many occasions, LeBron James was exhausted. And when you've got 2 days rest, you know, when you're traveling, that's a huge, huge deal. And when it's about the championship, we don't want to hear fatigue as a viable excuse. We want to get that out of the equation.
Most fans, I think, will not love this because it'll take 17 potential days to determine a champion here if it goes 7 games. But one team will love it, my San Antonio Spurs, because the added rest greatly increases their chances of winning yet another championship. Thank you very much.
People who appreciate sports appreciate the fact that you're not going to have any excuses. Give them that rest.
And people like me who appreciate sleep as well. I couldn't stay up for Empire last night. That's all I have to say. It's very sad, gentlemen.
Very, very sad.
See y'all tomorrow, same time, same place. Thanks so much for listening to the First Take podcast. Catch First Take weekdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific on ESPN2.
Last week, Julie Carroll posted a status that read, "Just had the most delicious banana ever." It got 2 likes and 4 comments. Well, Julie, Geico also wants to make a comment. What if we told you in as little as 15 minutes you could save hundreds of dollars on your car insurance by switching to Geico? With those hundreds of dollars, we bet you can find another banana equally, if not more delicious than the one you had last week. Hashtag go bananas, hashtag savings.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
The Pirates and Cardinals have the best 2 records in baseball, and they go head-to-head one final time this regular season. Could this be a preview of next week's division series? Coverage begins Wednesday at 6:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio.